Is living in Louisville as affordable as they say? Or are there going to be hidden costs that end up surprising you? In today's video, I'm going to tell you the truth about the cost of living in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm also going to share with you two of my viewers' most common cost of living questions. So let's jump right in. Welcome back. I'm a local realtor here in Louisville, Kentucky, and on my channel we discuss everything related to living in and moving to Louisville, Kentucky. In today's video, we're doing a bit of a 2.0 about the cost of living in Louisville. First, let me give you an overview of the cost of living in Louisville, Kentucky. Now, whenever I look at cost of living, I always like to pay attention to our cost of living index. This is an index that is helpful for us in comparing the cost of living in Louisville when compared to the nation as a whole or other cities within the United States. Cost of living can be determined and impacted by so many different factors, such as your career, what your salary is, and also the cost of real estate in an area. I think what you'll find as we look at the index scores for Louisville, Kentucky, that Louisville has a lower cost of living than the national average with more affordable housing and an overall more affordable lifestyle. So let's go ahead and throw up the cost of living index for Louisville, Kentucky. When we look at this chart, we see that the overall cost of living in Louisville is 89.7. Now, the way that these scores work is that 100 would represent the national average for the United States. So when we see that Louisville has a score of 89.7, that means that our cost of living in Louisville is below the national average. Now, Louisville is a little bit higher than the whole entire state of Kentucky, which has a score of 82.3. Now, of course, Louisville is one of our largest cities within the state of Kentucky, so it makes sense that our cost of living here is a bit higher than living in the more rural areas. Now, when we look at these other categories, we see that Louisville is actually below the national average in many other categories, including grocery, healthcare, housing, utilities, and other miscellaneous expenses. Now, there's just one category where we're actually higher than the national average, and that is our transportation score, which sits just above 103. There are several reasons why our transportation costs might be higher, but it is related to the excise tax that we have on some transportation in the state. We've also seen that maintaining your vehicle, purchasing your vehicle, all of those things in Louisville, Kentucky can be a bit higher than our national average. Another one of our scores that you'll see is significantly lower is that of the housing costs in Louisville, Kentucky. Our score for that category is 70.9, so we're almost 30% below the national average for our housing here in Louisville, Kentucky. Now, I want to give you a more up-to-date median sales price of a home here in Louisville. As of September 2023, the median sales price for a house in Louisville, Kentucky sits right at $250,000. Now, this will get you a modest house here in Louisville, Kentucky in a nice neighborhood. Another important question to answer is how much money are people in Louisville actually making? Because if you have all of these reduced costs of living, but you're not able to make as much money as the national average, then maybe your purchasing power is a little bit lower. The average base salary in Louisville, Kentucky is $68,000 per year. Now, according to Forbes, this is slightly higher than our national average. Now, obviously, we have wide varying salaries out there. So you just have to contextualize it for your own unique situation. And also there's lots of cost of living calculators out there. Reach out to me if you're interested in the one that I use, but it can compare city to city, their cost of living, what would be your purchasing power with a particular salary in comparison to those two cities. Next, I want to answer one of the cost of living questions that I get asked most often, and that is, what do the utility bills look like in Louisville, Kentucky? Well, it was a little hard for me to do this research, so I'm going to be honest with you. I'm just going to share with you one of my most recent utility bills. Now, I live in a modest-sized 1,500 square foot home right in the city of Louisville, Kentucky. My home was built in the 1950s, so it's an older house and it does not have great insulation. So our energy bills are going to be higher. This represents an average-sized household here in Louisville. So take a look at this chart where you can see back as far as December of last year. Now you'll see I have utility bills ranging, in the 100s all the way up to my highest bill was $382.97. That was back in February. It was very cold that month, and so we had the heat on quite a bit. When I averaged all of these out, it averaged out to be $218.89 per month. One thing that you need to know about LG&E, which is our utility company here, Louisville Gas and Electric, is that you can just pay your bills like I've obviously done here, or you can opt in to pay like an average where they kind of look at your previous year's total and they average out what they think your utility bill is going to be. So if you want it to be equalized out in your bill, that is an option, I believe, with LG&E as well. Now, how in the world is the LG&E bill figured out? Well, most utility companies charge you based on how many kilowatts per hour, that's the measure of energy, that you're using with your utilities. Now, all of that is way beyond my scope of understanding with the utilities, but I am going to show you on my last bill so that you can see how much energy I was using in my home. Now you'll see I have both gas and electric in my home, and they're showing you the price point for the kilowatts per hour. I have a gas furnace, and so that's why in the winter months you're seeing that I'm using more gas than in the summer months where I'm practically using none at all. So for sure, January and February are where I'm using the most energy. And then in July and August, when we're using the air conditioner, you're seeing that our electric charges are going up significantly. If you have more questions about how LG&E figures out their bill, I would encourage you to visit their website, lgne-ku.com. You'll find a lot of helpful information on this website. Now, the next question that I get so much about the cost of living is our tax bills, our property tax bills. And I'm going to tell you the truth, property taxes in Louisville, Kentucky are quite confusing. So it's best to reach out to your lender and to get more information about the property taxes for the specific property that you're looking at. I did want to give you just a little bit of general information about how the tax bills work here in Louisville. The first thing that you need to know is that your tax bill is going to be based on the assessed value of your property as of January 1st of that year. The tax bills are not sent out until late fall, typically the end of October, but definitely by November 1st, your tax bill will be sent in the mail to you. Now I am going to show you this chart from the Louisville Metro government website that shows you a little bit more about our tax rates. This is one of the reasons why it's so confusing to figure out the taxes for each particular home. You have all of these different rates for different areas and different taxes depending on where you're living. Now, of course, we're all going to have the Louisville Metro tax, but depending on which part of Louisville, you might have other taxes assessed to you as well. So all of the taxes that you're eligible for, all of these various numbers and rates for a specific address, you add those up and that ends up being your tax rate. Now, I am not a tax professional, so disclaimer alert, you're definitely going to want to check with a tax professional about these stats. Another question I often get about property taxes is how often are the taxes assessed? So if you look up in our PVA, and this is something I can do for you as a realtor, you will be able to see when different properties are getting reassessed. And I wish I could tell you it was at a certain measure, like every so many years. And if you live in Louisville and you actually know the answer to this question, please comment below. But I am not able to find anywhere where there's a rhyme or a reason. I think they just reassess different parts of the city at different times. Now, one time you can definitely plan on getting an assessment is that when you purchase your property, if the taxes have not been reassessed in any recent time, you can expect your tax bill to go up the following year after you purchase your property to match the purchase price. So there is an automatic assessment that happens on January 1st following when you purchased your home to match the purchase price of your home. So when you see the estimated tax bill from the previous years, you need to expect and anticipate that your mortgage payment, if you're escrowing your taxes insurance, is going to go up because you are going to get reassessed after purchasing a home, and that tax bill is going to get higher, especially if it hasn't been taxed and reassessed in a while. That assessment value is going to go up significantly, which will be reflected in your tax bill. Hopefully these answers to some of my most asked questions about the cost of living in Louisville were helpful to you. If you have any other questions, would you please comment below so I can help you find the answers? If you're considering moving to Louisville, Kentucky, be sure to check out my 1.0 cost of living video, the cost of living in Louisville, Kentucky. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.